I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 11, 2014 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the City of Brentwood. If you'd all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Jake McDonald.
Here.
Sharon Knowles.
Here.
John Nuremberg is here. Michael Daming.
Here.
Jennifer Hansen.
Here.
David Dimmitt.
Here.
Clint Lewis.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Nuremberger. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the May 14, 2014 meeting. Has everybody had an opportunity to review? Are there any changes? Seeing none, they'll stand as submitted. First item under old business is a petition for approval of an amendment to Chapter 19 of the Municipal Code of the City of Brentwood pertaining to sign regulations. This is an item that's been on the agenda the last couple meetings. This is an item that the Commission took up at length at our last site plan subcommittee meeting. I'd like to thank those of you that did make it to that subcommittee meeting. I thought it was a very fruitful discussion. We made it through approximately half of the sign code, and I would suggest that the most efficient way of addressing this sign code, given its complexity, would be to take it up at the next site plan subcommittee meeting and hopefully knock out the second half of that sign code proposal. So if there's no objection, we'll go ahead and table that until the next site plan subcommittee meeting. Very good. We'll table that by acclamation. First item under new business is a petition for site plan and conditional use permit approval to locate a health and beauty business located at 2928 South Brentwood Boulevard. Is the petitioner here? Okay. Would you please step forward, introduce yourself, and present your application.
My name is Eli Helise, and this is Gina Batani. And,
You picking that up, Kevin?
Barely. You need to speak up a little bit.
My name is Eli Helise, and up here with me is Jinan Batani. And we are here to petition the city to get a conditional use permit for the zoning for Annie Batani's business. The business, I don't know if you guys got the business plan in front of you. It's basically a simple business, eyelash extensions, performing like each single eyelash extension. So she's going to have like basically a bed, some lighting, and eyelash extensions. She's going to be attaching each single eyelash using extreme eyelashes.
And then we do have body waxing and body massages.
And there's not going to be any other sort of personal treatment there. It's just going to, the building's already existing. Existing building, a little bit low on square footage, according to Justin. That's why we had to come and get the conditional use permit.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wise, did you note the reference to providing massages?
I did not note that in the original application.
Is there any implications for us taking, are there any implications with that use?
No. I mean, I think the biggest probably implication would be from a parking standpoint. It would fall under the same classification from our zoning regulations.
Okay, I just wanted to make that note because I did not see that on the application, but if there's no procedural issue with that. Mr. Wise, do you have, can you please offer your staff report?
Sure. The property is located on Brentwood Boulevard. This is south of Manchester Road, a couple parcels north of the railroad track. The subject site is zoned GC, General Commercial District, and as the applicant alluded to, it's a fairly small parcel, approximately just over 7,000 square feet. Given that it's a parcel that's under a half acre in size, it falls into a separate classification in the General Commercial District regulations, and therefore within the personal service-based businesses requires a conditional use permit to be issued ultimately by the Board of Aldermen after receiving a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. You'll note a few months ago we had a very similar proposal to this a little bit north of this location, again on Brentwood Boulevard, south of Manchester Road on the east side of the road. Very similar from a zoning standpoint as far as the uses that are proposed. The applicant has provided an updated site plan showing the existing conditions on the site, showing the parking areas. The one thing that staff has noted on a site visit, the existing parking spaces on the rear of the lot are not currently striped, so they would have to, as part, when they moved in, they would need to
I
move in.
spoke to them about that,
Right.
and he said he'll be willing to do that for us.
And so we would handle that typically as part of the occupancy permit review and issuance process. Other than that, it's a very similar use that the commission has reviewed previously and recommended approval of.
I agree. I drove by this site. It seems to be well-maintained, and there simply doesn't seem to be a lot that the applicant can do to this site. But we'll open it up to commission members with questions. Mr. Lewis?
How many folks do you plan on having on a daily basis? And do you use the alley for that as well? And is that okay to use that alleyway?
No, we're not going to be using the alleyway. There's a fence in the back.
It's gated.
We are.
Yeah, it's closed. Yeah, it's closed.
Yeah, there's a fence that provides access to the alleyway, which we are going to keep closed and maybe chain up in the future because we really don't care for people coming in that way. We want everybody coming in through the front. On average, we're going to have probably about 4 people that are constantly there all day, and customers coming in and out. Probably, I'd say, about 15 to 20 customers a day would be it.
Okay, Mr. Wise?
On that note, when the commission reviewed the previous application, one of the concerns that came up was there was a lack of definition between parking areas. This lot, the rear of the parking area, as they alluded to from the alley as well as from the sides, it's fenced off. So the parking for this is dedicated solely to this use as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Nuremberger?
How many spaces do they have?
I believe it's 8.
8, I think it says.
Is it 8?
Yes.
So that would be 4 for 4 employees and 4 for your customers?
Customers
Yeah.
can, yes.
You think that's sufficient?
We think so. There's not going to be a lot of it's by appointment only, no walk-ins. So everybody's going to have their own scheduled time coming in. I know, speaking for my wife, her clients have to book an hour at a time, so they're not there waiting an hour to get in, and they have to have an appointment to come in. It's not like,
Actually, I think we'll just have 2 cars for ourselves because my sister has her own car and 3 of us will be riding together. Sisters, we all live together, so.
yeah, so that's kind of close.
And the exterior of the building will stay the same as it is
Absolutely,
today?
right?
We will put a temporary sign and then reapply for another sign. It's kind of like what we were thinking of doing is there's going to be some signage that until like, over the awning, and so we can put like a name and a number and stuff like that. There's going to be some signage that the awning is already existing.
Okay.
But we're going to be changing.
What is signage? I don't remember what signage is there currently.
There's no signs.
Oh, nothing?
No
that-
signs at all.
So you would just have to go through what the sign
Yeah.
Sure.
code allows you to do and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
We're not going to install anything on the sidewalk.
And you would have to get, for a temporary sign, you should
Yeah.
also get permits. Or,
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, and that sort of thing.
Definitely.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Ms. Knowles?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 questions. First, to piggyback off of him, does the company have a name?
Yes, House of Noor.
House of,
Nor.
Yep. In
oh, okay. That's all. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
It's
I
House
just-
of Noor?
N-O-U-R.
N-O-U-R.
Noor.
Well, we're Lebanese, and Noor means light, and so it's kind of like playing on the words of beauty and light and bringing things to the forefront, guiding light.
Just didn't want something,
Yeah. No.
because I didn't see it on here. It's going to be on an awning. And then
Good question.
the entrance to our fair town. And then on trash enclosure.
Yes, ma'am.
So we talk about trash enclosure, but will you have a dumpster? Will you just have trash
We can
pickup
put a
inside?
dumpster, but I spoke to the manager of the building, and he said there is because they are located right next door, and there's a big dumpster in the back of the building that we are allowed to use also.
Okay.
But he said if we do need to get one, then we can.
And the potential uses maybe like one, like 10-gallon bag a day.
You're not going to have a lot?
We're not going to
Yeah.
have
Gotcha.
lots of
That's all I have,
disposables.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Demmett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as that dumpster is concerned, is there any language in the lease that grants you rights to use the dumpster of?
No, but we can speak to the landlord to actually have it amended in the lease.
Okay, I think that might be a wise
Yeah.
thing to do, just protect yourselves.
Sure.
Yep, definitely.
Secondly, are you planning on doing, or do you see any need or any demand for doing what they call these peel treatment, facial peel,
No,
no TCA peels?
no. I think the maximum that my wife will do and the sisters will do is a massage therapy, some waxing of the eyebrows, doing some waxing of the eyebrows, just general facial waxings, little esthetician stuff, nothing major at all.
No permanent, what do they call that, permanent eye lining or something
No,
like
no,
that? Is there-
No.
Okay, all right.
Do you need a referral, David?
I could use all the help I can get. All right, look at me. Okay.
We'll give you a discount on extensions.
No, none of that.
No.
Ms. Hanson?
Hi, thank you, Chairman. So your employees are all licensed estheticians?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and there's you don't intend to expand into like haircuts,
No.
facials, that kind of thing? Okay,
Not at this site.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when they're ready to expand, they want a bigger site where they can build out. So at this site, no, we don't see
Yeah,
a,
we're there for 3 years, and maybe after that, God willing, we will, yeah.
and a single massage therapist then?
Yeah.
yes.
All right, okay.
Further questions from commission members? Mr. McDonald?
Just a question getting back to the massage piece of the puzzle here. Does the licenses that you all hold permit you to do that? Are you required to have licenses to perform that?
The person that's going to be performing the massage portion is a licensed massage therapist. She currently works at different chiropractors' offices doing appointments over there. Now she's actually going to be working with her sister in one place. She's going to be taking appointments there. So it's not a big part of the business, but it is a part of the business. So
Okay, thank you.
all by appointment.
Mr. Norrenberger?
Just to say, I think they do the same sort of thing at Face and Body and also across the street at the Tran location as well. I think that's similar, that we've had those type of uses, so just wanted to make that clear.
Certainly at Face and Body.
Yes.
Agree with that. Any further questions? Any member of the audience like to address the commission on this application? This appears to be an application that's in order. It's a building that's been vacant for how long, Mr. Wise?
Based off the best records we can find, about 4 years.
Well, seems to be good corporate citizens here, and if there's no further questions, Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve this site plan as submitted.
A second?
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Jake McDonald,
Yes.
Terry Knowles,
Yes.
John Nuremberg is yes. Jennifer Hansen,
Yes,
David Demmett,
Yes.
Clint Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Congratulations, Mr. Wise. Can you tell them next step?
Sure. The next step will hold the formal public hearing, and it'll be before the Board of Aldermen at the July 21st meeting for final approval. And I'll be in touch with you guys on that. Thank you.
Very good.
Nope, you're free to go.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a petition for site plan and conditional use permit approval to locate a drive-through fast food restaurant located at 8106 Manchester Road. Is the petitioner here? Can you please step forward, sir? Introduce yourself and your application.
Hi, my name's Gabe Patino. I'm here for a site development plan and conditional use permit approval for Fort Taco. It's formerly Rally's restaurant, drive-through restaurant.
I see a petition from Tyson Martinez. What is your relation to the actual petitioner?
Part owner, he's a friend.
What's the name of the ownership entity?
Penn City Inc.
How do you spell that?
PENNCITY.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So you and Mr. Martinez are shareholders in Penn City Inc.?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay, can you please present your application?
I'm sorry. This is a last-minute thing. I don't know exactly what the application. He gave me this to bring. There was no real. I don't see an application in here.
What are you trying to do?
Get approval for the. I'm sorry. Approval for the permit, the development plan conditional permit approval. He gave me a few questions that they might ask that I could answer, and he gave me schematics to the property and the pictures of before and after what we've done so far, and the logo and a drawing of the plan for the sign from SOI, Outdoor Sign Company.
Okay, you realize the sign part of your application is not part of what's before us tonight.
Okay.
So, but everything else is, correct, Mr. Wise?
That is correct.
And Mr. Wise, can you please offer the staff analysis of this application?
Sure. The site is located on the south side of Manchester Road between Hanley Road and Brentwood Boulevard. It's the former site of a Rally's restaurant. It's been vacant for several years now. The former Rally's use operated under a conditional use permit that authorized a drive-through fast food restaurant on the site. However, the city's zoning ordinance has a clause in there where if the use is abandoned for more than 12 months, it essentially terminates the existing conditional use permit, and that's why the applicant is before you this evening for the conditional use permit to reestablish the use of a fast food drive-through restaurant on the site. As far as site work that the applicant is proposing, they are submitting the previously approved site plan for the Rally's restaurant that was approved by the city of Brentwood. They're not proposing any site changes per se, but rather looking to reestablish the former conditions of the site. They are proposing some changes to the building elevations. Those primarily consist of paint changes. They've submitted a kind of a rendering of what the color schematics that they're looking to propose on the site are. As far as the signage goes, we do have an application for a sign permit in with the department. It's on hold, kind of pending the review of everything by the Planning and Zoning Commission and then the Board of Aldermen prior to releasing that permit. Again, the site previously operated as a drive-through restaurant. Staff has researched through the records looking at primarily if there were parking concerns, if there were stacking concerns, if there were any concerns that backed out onto Manchester Road. I was not able to find any documented concerns of those problems existing on the site. It's from my perspective, it's a reasonable expectation given that we don't have any documented instances with the previous user establishing another fast food drive-through restaurant on the site. It's a reasonable assumption that it would operate appropriately at the site again. The one question that did come up, or I guess there are two questions. First, there's a lot of just general maintenance on the site that needs to be done. The applicant, they've been doing a lot of that just kind of routine maintenance, probably neglected maintenance from the last couple of years, and they're doing a very good job already on cleaning that up. But on the plan that was submitted to the commission, there's landscaping that's shown on that plan. If ultimately the commission were to move forward and recommend approval, and the Board of Aldermen were to approve the plan as submitted, we would ensure compliance with the plan, and the landscaping on that plan is installed on the site prior to occupancy. The only other issue is there's a window on the front of the building. It was previously utilized as a walk-up window, and looking for some clarification on exactly what the proposed use of that is. I believe the commission had a proposal for another drive-through that was a retail-based use, and the same concern was brought up at that time on what is the use of that, and if it is going to be open for the public to come into that, what kind of parking implications does that have, and maybe more importantly, ensuring that safe pedestrian access across that drive aisle is provided to ensure protection of the pedestrians.
So, sir, it's my understanding this is an exclusively drive-through restaurant?
Yes, sir.
And you're aware that there is a walk-up window currently on the building?
Yes, sir. We won't be using that. We won't discourage use of that.
Prohibit use of that?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. And then to follow up on Mr. Wise's point, most of the time, frankly, we get new site plans with applications that come in. You've chosen to submit and to be bound by the earlier site plan that was approved for this site, which is fine. But just so you know, I want to make sure we're on the same page. There's significant landscaping here on the old site plan that you would be obligated to perform. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay. And the signage issue, just so you know, I want to make sure there's no confusion. That would be part of a separate application you would have to submit with the detailed schematics with the sign.
Okay, I understand.
Very good. Questions from commission members? Ms. Hanson.
Thank you. This isn't a franchise, is it?
No.
Okay. Do you have any other locations?
No, this is the first one.
All right. I know there's no walk-up. Are you going to provide tables for eating outside?
No, not at this point. There's no plans for that.
What's the menu besides tacos?
It's actually right now with a very small menu. It's just going to be tacos and enchiladas and drinks for right now. We plan to expand the menu in the near future to tamales and maybe tostadas.
And obviously no liquor license, right? I think I saw that on the actual application.
Excuse me?
No permit, no application for a liquor license, right?
No alcohol.
All right, that's all I had. Thanks.
Mr. Devitt.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. As far as that window, the walk-up window, in response to the chairman's question, said you prohibited. How about just eliminating the window altogether so it doesn't become an issue? Would you be agreeable to doing that, taking it out?
We would agree to taking out the sliding glass.
Right.
Yes.
And I believe the staff report, Mr. Wise mentioned something about hours. Is that right?
That's correct.
Can you give me a little heads up, illuminate?
The application itself, it includes the hours of operation for the use. The information that was submitted by the applicant indicates that the restaurant would be open 7 days a week with operating hours from 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. It may be a little bit of a redundant condition if the commission were to recommend it, since it is presented as part of the applicant's proposal to the commission. But I do want to make sure that we reinforce that the hours that are included and proposed as part of the application, that they are part of the restrictions that go with the site.
Okay. Can you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions.
So to the extent you wanted to expand those hours, that would be an expansion of the use, the intended use, so you would have to come back to the commission and to the Board of Aldermen.
Okay.
Mr. Nuremberger?
Are you renting this space for the owner, or are you going to be the owner of the space?
Or renting.
Okay, so, and I had some questions about the age of this plan as well. Do you know if this is exactly what was built?
Yeah, I went out to the site and looked around at it, and I believe that it's an accurate representation of the
All right.
site as it is.
So, sometimes they propose something different or whatever, and what's built is different. And this is a lot of landscape. We're not talking about leaving what's there. It's going to be replaced as new, and that sort of thing. I don't know where the trees, what trees are being replaced.
Well, I think where trees are shown on the plan and they're in good health and in good condition, we would certainly want to leave the mature trees on the site.
That's
But-
what I was just
Yeah.
trying to say, just trim them up or whatever.
Exactly.
We don't, if there's a place that one died, we would want you to replace it, get rid of the older bushes and replace with new or whatever, and that sort of thing. We want your place to look presentable. I'm sure you do as well. You're gonna have both lanes open
Yes,
on
sir.
the drive-through?
Yes.
I hate the right side one. No, it doesn't work, but for me.
Just go to the left.
Yeah, that's what I wait. And the dumpster enclosure on the back side is really bad condition. Could you replace that with a like material or whatever you can agree with the city on? Just have it replaced or updated.
Yes, sir.
Let's see, and then I'm just looking. This is the Sonic where they have the proposed automobile center. That's Sonic, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I just was throwing me off a little bit because there was it's the one to the right or whatever is the automobile center, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. So, all right, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions from commission members? Okay, would any member of the audience like to address the commission on this application? Well, the applicant has answered all my questions in the way that I hoped he would answer them, and it sounds like the commissioners have had their questions answered as well. So this appears to be a matter of abiding by the site plan that the applicant has chosen to proceed under, which would include the fence. That was a good point by Mr. Nuremberger. You are agreeable
Yeah, we
to...
do have plans on refurbishing the fence.
Very good.
And
It's-
removal of the existing walk-up window.
Right, and
Yeah,
removal of the window.
Yeah, the removal of the window.
Correct. Very good. Well, this is a building that's been vacant for how long, Mr. Wise?
About, I think somewhere in the 4 to 5 year range. It's
I
been
was
vacant
going to
for a
say
while.
8.
What was that?
8,
Go ahead.
something like. It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's a drive-through restaurant building, and the applicant is going to improve the site according to the site plan. I have no problem moving forward with the approval tonight unless someone has an objection. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we send this with positive approval to the Board of Aldermen, including what's on the site plan, the fence, and the removal of the sliding window.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Knowles, second by Mr. Demmett. Roll call, please.
Clint Lewis,
Yes.
David Dimmitt,
Yes.
Jennifer Hansen,
Yes.
John Nuremberger is yes, Terry Knowles,
Yes?
Jake McDonald.
Yes.
Motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Nuremberger.
Good luck
Thank
and
you.
welcome to the city.
Absolutely.
very much.
Welcome to the community. Thank you for your application, and Mr. Wise will be in touch with you as to the next step.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the comprehensive plan discussion. Just as a little bit of background for the commission, the comprehensive plan is the governing planning document for any fourth-class city. Our last plan was passed and approved by the commission back in 2006. There have been no updates since 2006. And this is despite our website exhibiting the comprehensive plan to anybody that chooses to come to our website with the indication that it will be subject to an annual review and will be updated every 5 years. Well, it's been 8 years since we've looked at this comprehensive plan. By Missouri state statute, it's exclusively the venue of the Planning and Zoning Commission to ultimately approve the comprehensive plan. So I suggest it's incumbent on us to start the process, retain a consultant at the very least to review our comprehensive plan and to let us know the extent to which that comprehensive plan needs to either be updated or replaced altogether. I would suggest that an initial review by a consultant would be appropriate rather than just jumping in and spending what could be up to 6 figures on a consultant to actually replace the comprehensive plan. I would note that money has been appropriated by the budget to actually do the entire comprehensive plan, replace the entire comprehensive plan this year. It has not yet been allocated. So frankly, I'm looking for some consensus from this commission, and I'd like to have a unanimous recommendation from this commission to request allocation of funds that have already been appropriated, request allocation of funds from the Board of Aldermen to initiate a review, retain a consultant, work with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and determine the extent to which our comprehensive plan needs to either be updated or replaced. I'll open it up to discussion.
What kind of a procedure would we set up to review our, I don't have any idea what we would it be just the commission? How would we determine, set out the time to be able to accomplish this, I think, you know.
And Mr. Wise, I'd like to get your input on this, but it's my understanding this is how municipalities typically would approach, especially when it's been this amount of years in between an actual comprehensive plan adoption. But this initial process would just be a review. Where have we gone with the comp plan since 2006? What's occurred in the city since 2006? What parts of the comprehensive plan are updated and need to be reviewed and need to be updated, need to be replaced? Does the comp plan, frankly, the threshold question I think that is at issue right now is, does this comp plan need to be completely replaced, or can it simply be updated? Frankly, most municipalities that I'm aware of in the St. Louis area provide these updates on the comprehensive plans, like our website says we'll do. Right. Annual reviews, certainly is subject to a 5-year update. We haven't done it. We haven't done anything.
How much do you think that would cost?
Yeah. Mr. Wise, you care to offer your seasoned and experienced opinion on that?
A lot of it depends on, there's a lot of factors that go into it on exactly what you want. I would guess if I were to, pick a number out of the sky just for discussion's sake, I would say somewhere $10,000 range.
For the preliminary review?
For the preliminary review. And essentially what the preliminary review would be doing from my point of view would be defining a scope for a future update. Or whether it's a full plan update or a small amendment or whatever, that process is ultimately getting at defining what the scope of that is and realistically building consensus on what needs to be done on the plan itself.
And Mr. Wise, how much has been allocated, or I should say appropriated, in the budget for this year, 2014, for the comprehensive plan?
More than 10,000.
Okay.
90,000 is what we have in there right now.
So if we don't do it, nobody will.
I don't really see, I'm sorry, I don't see a downside. We have to investigate. We're not equipped to do it. We could spin our wheels for a long time.
Agreed. And I think I would suggest that we work with the consultant. Mr. Wise, whether it would be an RFP or an RFQ. Right. I'd leave that to staff. And then ultimately make our recommendation to the Board of Aldermen as to, we'd have to come back to the board and say, hey, we recommend an update. We recommend a replacement. We recommend nothing at all. It'd be shocking to me if we wouldn't recommend anything, given it's been 8 years. But
who did the one on 2006? Do we know?
Is it Wolpert?
Yeah,
right?
they were the prime consultants on it.
So we use that same organization? I know there's been some pushback about people that didn't like the way it was done or some parts of that. So I would recommend putting out for...
We will absolutely go through an appropriate process of vetting consultants to get...
Who would make that decision? Would that come before us to make that decision, or...
We would likely look to establish some sort of a review committee. I don't think we would want to open it up to the entire commission.
But it would be members of this commission, not,
I think that we would probably have involvement from staff as well as from the commission in that selection process and ultimately recommending an approval.
okay.
I think that would be the best scenario.
I just think there should be some thought given to not using maybe the same company that we used in the past unless they're the best at what they do. But sometimes there's only a couple of options or whatever, so.
There's numerous options. I don't think we're going to be limited in that regard.
How long will a preliminary review take, in your experience? Especially if it's been 8 years since anybody looked at it.
I'm going to guess we could get it done in 3 months without a problem.
And that's the preliminary review and our, I
would
guess,
hope
digesting of that review. And
Yeah.
do you mean from start to finish?
Yeah, I would
making
hope
a
from notice
recommendation.
to proceed to hopefully getting a recommendation out of the commission that we would be in that 3-month range on coming up on an agreeable path forward. For the review, correct. Yeah,
In terms of procedure then, so if we come up with a unanimous recommendation to, to approach the Board of Aldermen to request funding for this preliminary study, does that seem fair?
I think that's right. And so the question that Mr. Nuremberger brought up a good point is, well, do we request that the allocation be made for the review? And do you want to take a look at the applications, or do we want to, I mean, what's your recommendation on that, Mr. Wise? So you send out the RFQs, you get 3 applications, then who provides the oversight of those applicants? Who makes the determination?
I think we would look to establish a review committee of, 3, 4, 5 people, somewhat of a manageable size, and then we would, before we start the interview process, we would essentially create an evaluation matrix. And then we would go through the interview process with each of the consultants. We would have each of the people that are on the committee basically grade, for lack of a better terms, the consultants in each of the areas, if they're weighted, if they're not weighted, and then take all of the results at the end and tally them into a formal recommendation, and then make sure that the review committee, that there's consensus on that for the recommendation.
So would it be a delegation basically to a subcommittee, to our subcommittee then, to approve?
I think we would, essentially, yeah, I think that's a reasonable way of handling it.
Okay, so then, let me know what you all think, but it sounds like the request would be for allocation to, approval for staff to move forward with the RFQ, RFP, and then allow the subcommittee then to select the consultant after the Board of Aldermen approves the allocation.
No, I'm just trying to get my arms around. We're approving like the $10,000 first. Then the next phase we would submit to the Board of Aldermen for the rest of the funds to go forward to finish it if we find out that we need to have it done.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
We're looking for an expert analysis of our comp plan, the status of our comp plan right now, and their recommendations on what needs to be done.
So we could get this review maybe done this year, and then next year we would finish up the remainder of the comp plan.
Well, depending on what
Yeah.
what the consultant recommends, and,
Right.
and what the committee then takes from the consultant and recommends moving forward.
Right.
Mr. McDonald.
Following that line of thinking, what's to guarantee the funds to do the full plan are available next year? If they're in this year's budget, is there a guarantee that they're in next year's budget?
I don't think we have that guarantee. So,
And the point of my question is I think it's worthwhile. It seems like something we definitely should take up and something we should do quickly. And make a request to spend the funds that have been allocated while we've got them.
Mr. Lewis?
I'd be in agreement of trying to get this updated. I also think maybe we should, if we don't do this, we may not stay competitive with our surrounding areas, which I think is important. We may also be able to find some synergies with how much it costs with, I know the library's doing something, and I think Parks is doing something right now, so maybe there's somebody that's already familiar with how we're operating, we can get a better cost structure there.
Good point. Mr. Demmett?
I couldn't agree more with you, Clint. I think 8 years is an eternity, considering everything that's happened within those 8 years. Massive changes. So I would certainly be in favor of doing that. In terms of helping the board, I'm pretending I'm on the board right now. If I'm presented with this, how does the board have any idea what it would cost? Would it be some estimate by you? Because if we make this recommendation to the board, and then the chairman or you report to the Board of Aldermen, look, there's this recommendation by the P&Z Commission to hire this. I'm assuming one of the questions from the Board of Aldermen be, how much are we talking? Do we need to have actual numbers in place, bids, before you go to the board? What comes first?
I think that we would want to get a feeling from the board first before we go through the process. I would much rather have a firm feeling that, hey, we've got up to $10,000 to do this, and we get into the process and they say it's going to be $11,000 and have to go back for an amendment to a contract, as opposed to going through the whole process and then not following through with it. I think that we can do enough work on my end up front to provide the board with enough information that we can give them a reasonable amount of an estimate that we would not exceed, that we think is a reasonable expectation.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Wise, do you need Board of Aldermen approval to send out an RFP or an RFQ?
Generally, before any RFP or RFQ goes out from the city, we would go through at least a subcommittee of the board for approval before that would happen.
All right. So
Do we have to?
I
understand traditionally.
We would absolutely go through.
The course of conduct is that, but
we would absolutely go
necessary.
through the standard process and send it to them first and get the initial blessing from them.
This is just a different animal. This is the only governing document that Missouri statute says it's yours, Commission. This is not the Board of Aldermen. Certainly, we need their input. We need the money from the Board of Aldermen. They got the purse strings. But statutes are very clear. This is the Commission's purview, and frankly, I think it's our obligation to do our job and get this thing updated. So the question, though, that I have is, then what is the motion? Is the motion then to request authorization for you to send out an RFP or an RFQ?
I think that would be an appropriate motion.
For a review?
Correct. Correct.
But should we allocate the full amount of what's budgeted, the 90,000 or whatever it is, to be able to spend up to that much if the review says that we need to?
Well, I just don't think we know. Do you have a good idea
I think
how
it
much?
would, my personal opinion is I think it would be a more appropriate process to take it piece by piece, as opposed to trying to bite off the whole thing up front. I think it's easier to justify a smaller request up front than just say, give us everything in case we maybe need it. So my recommendation would be to move forward with the funds for the review, and then take that, because quite frankly, we may have twice as much money as we need. We may have half the amount of money that we need. And so from my perspective, the most important thing would be if we could get that process, bid out, have a consultant come in, get the process started, and get a recommendation before we move into the final budget season, so that we can make sure and estimate for moving into next year's budget year that we have the appropriate funds to do what is recommended, and hopefully have consensus that that product that comes out of there is what is best for the city.
Well, but the question, though, and it's frustrating that there would be a delay, but we do need to make sure it's done right. The question, though, is at this stage, we're requesting the RFP and the RFQ. We get them, the board approves that, we get the applications, the submissions then, and then do we then need to take it up and then make a recommendation as to what entity we want to retain to perform this review?
That is correct. Ultimately, we would enter into a contract with some company or companies. I would guess on a review it would just be a single company that would be in charge of it. But we would enter into a contract with them to perform some scope of work of services that would require final approval as well.
I think that's probably right. You know, there is a delay there, but we need to make sure it's done right. So let me know what you all think, but I would think tonight we would just be requesting approval to initiate the RFP, RFQ process. Once that's approved by us and approved by the board, we get the applications in. Then we would then make another, it would be on our agenda again to make a recommendation as to what outfit we want to retain to perform this initial review.
How much it's going to cost, yeah, at that point.
I don't think
Makes
that's the way we
sense.
need to do it. Do you think that's the way we need to do it, Mr. Wise?
I think that would be an appropriate process.
Further discussion? Okay. Well, would any member of the audience like to address the commission on this? Yes, Alderwoman Saunders.
Maureen Saunders, 2326 Park Ridge. I'm thrilled that you put this on the agenda, and it is the purview of planning and zoning. I have been requesting this comprehensive plan update since, well, prior to becoming an alderman and since I've been an alderwoman. And I was on the 2006 Comprehensive Plan Committee. It took many, many years of championing to get the 1991 plan up to date. And on that committee, we swore that we would keep the 2006 plan up to date and do the 5-year review. So I'm very thrilled that you're taking a look at this. Just in listening, it seems to me that maybe we need to contact the actual planning individuals and see what type. They probably have levels of review that they do, and they may be able to tell you more specifically what you're looking at in the range of cost, just so you have some idea, and exactly are they going to review the historical. The critical part of the 5-year update is that you're going to get the input of all the stakeholders. So you're going to get the businesses as well as the residents and the aldermen and the committee members. And that's the costly part, is gaining that input, but it's the critical part too. So I'm not sure how they gauge in the update, you know, when you're just looking at it for a preliminary, how they would gauge that, how the sentiment has changed from all of the various stakeholders. So I think, you know, if you ask them, they probably have levels of updates that they do. The various, for instance, Woolport, they could advise you as to what type of update they think is required at this juncture. But I am a big proponent of planning. I agree with Clint Lewis as far as the synergy with some of the other strategic plans that we're doing. And as I said before, you always have to know so that you don't, for instance, sell a piece of land, such as we sold to TGI Fridays. That was city land. And I think now we would really like that as far as part of our community center or community sense of place. And you have to have, I'm not saying, you know, at that time maybe cash, you know, was slow and there were other circumstances, but you have to have a good plan and a really good goal. And there's a new type of planning they do now, and I can't remember the name of it, Ellen told me, but it's the same thing. We're looking at the parks, the recreation center, and I keep saying, but what are we doing with this building? You know, is this part of the sense of place? Are we combining the two? And we don't really have those questions answered. I mean, it's in the plan and it's vaguely, but I think we need to take a look at that again. So, again, I commend you for putting this on the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Further discussion? Any other member of the audience like to address the commission? Okay. Entertain a motion. Mr.
I'll
Demmett?
give it a shot. I'll make a motion to recommend to the Board of Aldermen that we, or that the board put out requests, or RFP or RFQs for a consultant to begin the preliminary review of the comprehensive plan.
I'll second.
I won't do a roll call.
Jake McDonald,
Yes.
Terry Knowles,
Yes.
John Nuremberger is yes, Jennifer Hansen,
Yes.
David Dimmitt,
Yes.
Clint Lewis.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Very good. Thank you. And Mr. Wise, we can coordinate presenting that to the board.
Absolutely. And one final comment, if anybody does not have a copy of the comprehensive plan, I've got a couple of copies here. It's on our website. I can email you a PDF. Just make sure everyone has it. If you have any questions on it, let me know.
Yeah, especially if you're looking forward, which I hope all of you are, to engaging with this consultant. Please make sure you familiarize yourself with the existing plan. That's amazing to me that the last plan before 2006 was 1991.
There were. There were specific study updates, which they continually told me that's updating the comprehensive plan. For instance, the Hanley Industrial Study, and there was one done by East-West Gateway. But again, it didn't have that community input, and I think they were very specific studies. So, I mean, I didn't buy that, but I mean, there is that argument that there were a few specific studies that they attributed to as updates.
Very good. Thank you, Alderwoman. Okay, Aldermanic report. Alderwoman, do you have anything else to say to the commission? City planners report, Mr. Wise.
Yeah, I had one quick update I wanted to give the commission as we're in the middle of kind of talking about the updates to the sign ordinance. I know there's been a lot of conversations, particularly with temporary signs and window signs that I've heard over the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update that our code enforcement division, I think hopefully you guys have noticed over the last couple of weeks, a lot of the temporary A-frame signs, that there was a temporary allowance of them, and then that expired, but the signs remained out for quite some time. We've been going around talking with business owners, informing them that those signs as a permitted sign has expired. We've got the majority of them cleaned up. We're still working a little bit on a couple of them, but we're making good progress. Right now we're in the middle of working on a lot of window signs as well. There are a lot of window signs across the city that aren't compliant with the city regulations. And so we're trying to work with those property owners and bringing those into compliance. And then after that, we're on a very regimented routine right now of one item at a time and going at it in a very systematic way to make sure our business owners realize that we're not singling anybody out, but that we're making an active effort in trying to bring properties into compliance. So it's a little bit of a slow process, but I did want to give you guys an update that we are making headway on that side as well.
Good.
Okay, Mr. Nuremberg.
I was just going to mention, I heard something about Home Depot going into a little bit more like trying to compete with Walmart or whatever. I guess that's in a move that trying to counteract the Menards are across the street, or do they have any new plans for that store?
This is the first I've heard of any of that, so.
I just heard it on the news or whatever.
I'll look into it, but I haven't heard anything about that.
So they might be changing things inside. If you hear anything, let us know.
Absolutely.
And did you ever find out about the Strayer University sign by chance?
I am actively discussing it with our legal counsel. They do have an active lease on the site. They are not currently in occupancy of the site, but they are paying rent on the space. Because they do have the lease on the space, so far I'm not getting very far in getting support from our legal counsel.
So you can rent space and put a sign on the building and not occupy the space at all? That to me just sounds absurd.
Right. But they have, they're...
You know, how much are they paying? Are they paying $10 or are they paying a full lease
They're
charge?
paying a full lease on it.
Really?
They are attempting to sublease the site out right now. There's a contract provision that they have with the property owner that if they sublease over a certain amount, that the sign has to be removed, and they're not to that point yet. So what it looks like the best option for us at this point that would be legally defensible from our legal counsel would be to help promote them getting that space subleased out to the point where they would hit that threshold and then.
Because the owner is not going to do it.
The owner, unless we have some legal reason to make him, it is written into the lease agreement that as long as they have it and they haven't hit that subleased portion out, that it's a right of theirs through the agreement that they have on the lease. So we are actively working on it, and we're trying to find any opportunities that may exist.
That's a good point, Mr. Nuremberg. Even though the sign was approved based on a representation of
That
a
they were
certain
going to
type of
occupy
use.
like how many floors, or they were going to have a major location there of a university, you know, and
They'd probably rather be there than in bankruptcy.
And I think a lot of this plays into some of the discussions that we're having with the changes to the sign regulations as a whole.
Right.
That if we were to push it, that we would essentially be violating this message substitution clause that the attorneys have brought up, that we are inherently regulating the content of the sign, and therefore we put ourselves at legal risk. That as long as they are complying with the dimensional requirements, where it was proposed, the size, the brightness, all of that, that we don't really have the authority at this point to make them remove it.
but it was part of a site plan approval process. So
But
it was a little
simply
bit
because-
different.
Yeah, right, but it still doesn't give you us the right as a city to regulate what their signs say.
It's part of the lease. I'm assuming that,
Right.
Yeah.
they paid, arguably, they paid more per square foot for that right to put that sign up
Right.
there than somebody who doesn't have the sign. So they have a contract with the owner, and we can't interfere with that without getting ourselves in hot water.
Right.
You know, it's.
I would just wish they had moved in.
That would be nice.
Yeah. So,
Any other questions for the city planner? Okay, we can take that up at subcommittee, Mr. Nuremberger, when we take up all the other sign
Yeah.
issues and the
Yeah.
remainder of the sign code. There was a request that we move the site plan subcommittee meeting time back to 6 rather than 7.
Staff fully supports that.
Any objection to that?
Which day is that, Mr.
I
Chairman?
think it's
June 25th?
just this.
my birthday.
What a great way to spend it. Happy sign day.
Volunteers for subcommittee? 6 o'clock?
Yes.
6:25? Very good. All right, well, we had a great turnout.
Is that an auction?
I didn't.
What was that?
We had a great,
6:25, or what do you?
June 25th at 6 o'clock?
Okay.
Well, we had a great turnout at the last subcommittee. I really thought it was great discussion on the sign code, so hopefully as many of you as can make it will make it. Rationale for the board? Mr. Wise, you can
Yes,
handle,
sir.
and we can discuss how to present the comprehensive plan issue. Any other business? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned.
And if everyone wants to leave any copies of plans, we will gladly take those and reuse those for the Alderman meetings.